So I wanted to do a real quick run through of a couple of different tips and tricks for starting a Baja 90. This is a Chinese ATV, and for the most part all the other makes are fairly similar. This is a 90cc engine, so some of the things may differ if you have 110cc or a different size engine, but for the most part a lot of the stuff is the same. So the main thing that we're going to need in order to start the engine is a spark, fuel, and air. And so those are kind of the three things we want to check for. It's pretty simple for the air component, because for the most part, if it's not getting enough air, if it sounds like it's choking out, then you either need to adjust the choke, which is right here just on the other side, or you need to clean out the air filter. I already have the air filter off, so if you're having trouble starting it, one of the things that's really simple to do is to just take the air filter off and then make sure the choke is set correctly, and if those are good, then for the most part you shouldn't be having problems with the air intake. Also make sure that the exhaust isn't blocked or pinched in. Obviously it needs a clear pathway for the exhaust to get out. So if it's a pretty damaged ATV, you want to make sure to check the exhaust line, make sure there's no dirt jammed into it anywhere, and make sure it's not pinched or bent anywhere, because sometimes that can happen on some of these older four-wheelers. So that's pretty much all you need to check with the air. Make sure the choke and the air cleaner are fine. With fuel, you want to make sure to check a couple of different things. This is also a pretty simple one, but I wouldn't necessarily jump to cleaning the carburetor quite yet. So with the fuel, you want to make sure, one, that you have good gas in it. If you bought the four-wheeler off someone, or if the four-wheeler's been sitting for a while, then it's probably best to just drain the gas out using the gas lines on the other side. So I'm over on this side of the four-wheeler now. If you need to drain the gas, one thing you can do is just pull this little clamp off, that little hose clamp, and then pull that off, and you can just drain it into a cup right here if you need to. With the fuel filter, one way that's easy to check it is, as long as you have gas in the tank right here, if this is full, then if you pull this off and gas is flowing pretty well, then for the most part you should know that this fuel filter is fine. The fuel filter is okay. Obviously you can do a visual inspection if you need to. If the fuel filter is black or it looks like it has a bunch of debris in there, then obviously you can pull that off and clean it, or just put a new one on there. For the most part they're pretty cheap. But to check it, really all you need to make sure is that when you pull this off, if gas is flowing pretty quickly through, then the fuel filter should be fine. You'll also want to check and make sure that your gas is on. If this lever is in the 6 o'clock position, that means the fuel is turned on. So if you've checked to make sure that there's air getting to the system, and that for the most part fuel is getting to the system, you know the fuel filter's fine. We're not going to want to go to the carburetor just yet. Oh, by the way, that is the, this lever right here is the choke. So if you're needing to choke it, you want to push it up. That's half choke, I believe. And then this is wide open when you push it down. So when you're running it, you want to make sure that that's pushed to the down position. Now when you've checked all this, you know that you have air going to the engine, you know you have fuel at least making it to the carburetor. Then another quick check you want to do is check the electrical system. One common thing that people mistake is you have to make sure that you're holding this brake, because if you check right here, these wires connect when the brake is pulled back, and so you need to hold the brake down or put the parking brake on in order to start this four-wheeler. So if you have the brake on, you know you're starting the four-wheeler right, and you still can't get it started, it's turning over, you know the battery works okay, then another thing that you'll want to check is the electrical system. So to check the electrical system, we'll want to pull out the spark plug first, because that's the easiest way to check the electrical system. So what you can do is you can pull that spark plug out. This little connector piece, I have it pulled off right now, but it will go on the end of that spark plug. You can just slide this off or twist it off, however you need to. And then you can unscrew that spark plug right there and plug it back into here. And in order to test it, we can look for a spark, or if you have a multimeter, you can do that as well. But if you want, you can just take that spark plug and plug it into here, and then just tap it to anything that's gonna ground it. So one mistake that a lot of people make is they'll take the spark plug out and they'll just hold it right here out in the open, and they'll try to start it and they won't see a spark, and they'll think that the spark plug is broken. That's not true. The spark plug has to be grounded to something for the spark to happen. And so that's why when you thread that spark plug in, the threads are actually grounding the spark plug to the rest of the engine. And so make sure that the threads, or at least some part of the spark plug near the end, is touching something to ground it. And as long as that's happening, you should see a spark right there. If you don't see a spark, then what you can do is slowly make your way back up this way. One thing that'll happen sometimes too is if people forget to clip this wire in to the spot right there, then it can touch the exhaust and melt it. That's what happened to mine. Thankfully, mine didn't melt all the way through. It didn't damage the wires on the inside. But if you check, there might be some spots that are melted that you may need to repair or splice back together. Now, once you've checked to make sure that the spark plug is okay, if you weren't able to get a spark there, you can work your way down the rest of this line. Obviously I've made it to the solenoid right there, and I still don't know what's wrong with it. So I'm gonna have to troubleshoot some more of the wiring on it. So if you've done those couple of things, if you've checked to make sure that you're getting air into the engine, you're also checked to make sure that the spark plug is getting a spark, and you know you're getting fuel up into your fuel filter where it attaches to the carburetor, then the last thing you want to do is try cleaning the carburetor. More often than not, if the four-wheeler has been sitting for a while, then the jets inside this carburetor will get clogged up with gunk. So you want to make sure, if you clean that out, to clean it really well. I have a video on how to clean this carburetor, so I'll link that in the description below. But if the ATV is not starting, or if you're driving the ATV and you hit a certain point and it starts to die out, then most likely your carburetor is clogged and it's not getting enough fuel into the system. So make sure to clean that out. It might even be worth it just to clean it out before you ride it around, to make sure that the carburetor is fully cleaned and your engine is performing the best that it can. So hopefully those couple of tips helped. Let me know if you have any questions or anything in the comments. I'll make sure to post some links for tools and products that I use in the description. Thank you.